Hey, good evening, guys. It's KB5MIQ Big Boy. We fix to give this Yaesu FT4X away for 1,700 sub giveaway. Guys, I appreciate everybody who subscribed to the channel. I'll do the drawing here. I'll send it out Monday. I'll stick you a few stickers in it, probably a QSL card of mine, because I don't have any koozies at the moment. But you guys have got me up over 1,730 subscribers, and I really appreciate it. We had about 40 entries for this. I'm going to pull one out of this. I'll put everybody's name on a ticket. We're going to pull one out here and see what we come up with. I got one right here. Looks like Robert Gerber, KB6JFL. I may have that last name wrong. KB6JFL, Robert. Thank you for entering. Congratulations. I'll get this sent out to you Monday morning. Appreciate it. Thanks everybody who's in it. Guys, just give everybody a little update. Everybody asks about my dad. We have made me and him sat down. I'm not making him do anything, but we have come to an agreement that he is going to be headed to a rest home Monday morning. He is not going to be able to stay by himself, and he's ready to go. So much as I hate to do it, that's where we're at, and I appreciate everybody's concerns and prayers and all the comments about it. I really do. But we get him into a rest home, he can get started on this next stage of life, and that'll I can go see him. It's going to be local. I can go see him, but it'll also let me kind of get back into my normal routines, because the last 4 months been really covered up here, and I'm not going along with him going to rest home just so I can get freed up. It's just he's at the point that he cannot stay by himself, and the 24-hour care is mega expensive. So we've had to make a decision. Again, I appreciate everybody's concern, and thank y'all. I really do appreciate it. Guys, I got a subject we're going to talk about tonight. Let me get my glasses back on here. This, like I said, I get a lot of my subjects off social media. This come out of one of the ham groups. A bit confused. HF is not line of sight like UHF, VHF. Yes, most tower installations I see are general class operators on HF. So why the tower? What does it offer besides the undeniable cool factor? The guy got a lot of good comments. But everybody missed one of the most basic comments, what I'm going to talk about. In fact, most of these comments were talking about takeoff angles and propagation and all these height above grounds and wavelengths, and a lot of these answers were they were very polite, but they were what I call borderline NASA engineer answers. There's one from my old buddy David, one of my listeners who is a retired NASA engineer. Guys, I run a basic shack. I've always done this hobby on the cheap. I go by what my buddy Jeff, one of my oldest friends I've got left in this world, says that height is might, and don't put up more antennas than you can afford to have blown down. So I've had one tower in my career that was up for about a minute and a half before it collapsed, and that story's in a previous video. I've run everything with push-up poles. Now, here's my take of where you need to plan your shack and plan what you're wanting to do in ham radio. Because You can do this hobby on the cheap, and you can do this hobby. You can dump a bunch of money into this hobby. It looks either way you want to do it. But this is my take: tower versus push-up poles. I run a 10-meter Yagi. That's a 2-element Moxon. 10-meter antennas are like 11-meter Yagi beams. They're usually lightweight. They're not that big. They don't have a big wind load, not a big weight load. My 10-meter Yagi's on top of a 50-foot push-up pole with a mast in it that's got my 3-element VHF beam on top of it, and under the Yagi has got a 17-meter MFJ hamstick rotatable dipole, rotated by the cheap RCA, old Channel Master RCA type rotor. This is a new one. Probably had to break down and buy a new one. 3 guy ropes, 3/8 Dacron, black Dacron rope. Hadn't had a bit of trouble with it. Been up for years. When I work the low bands, I've got options. I can use my Hustler 5BTV vertical. I've got a 4-band center fed dipole out there at the moment. I've got a 10 through 80 meter half wave out there. I've got this 8-band Buckmaster off center fed dipole I hope to be getting up here in the next month to 2 months that I'll replace a lot of those antennas with. But here's what you're looking at when you want to get into a tower. Say you want to put a full-size tri-bander up. Now remember, when you get into full-size tri-banders, you got 10, 15, and 20 meters. The boom's going to be heavier, the elements are heavier, and it's bigger, which creates more wind load and more weight. And it's usually too much to put on a push-up pole. We'll give you some limits on a push-up pole. Like I've said earlier about the lightweight 10-meter single-band antennas, single-band rotatable dipoles. I had a 5/8 wave fiberglass tram dual-band UHF VHF antenna. I think it was about 16 feet long, fiberglass. It was heavy. I put it on top of mast on my 50-foot push-up pole. I didn't like the performance of the antenna, but it really caught a lot of wind and put a big strain on the pole. I didn't leave it up there long when I took it down because it was going to cause problems. Full-size tri-banders versus smaller 10-meter Yagis. I honestly had a Mosley T33 Junior tri-bander on a push-up pole at one time. It was a little slightly bigger than the 10-meter, but it worked. That's the biggest I would ever put on one. Actually, at one time, wind caught it and bent the pole with it. So that's about the limit, I would say, for a push-up pole. Now, guys, this is just my advice. Sooner or later, I know somebody's going to say they put a step IR up on a push-up pole. That's fine if you was able to do it. I'm just giving you my suggestions. Now, when you get into full-size tri-banders, bigger antennas, especially if you put a 40-meter element on it, and added a 40-meter element to a tri-bander, you're really going to have to use, probably RON 25 is the standard, gold standard at ham towers. I have seen guys put RON 45s up with huge step IR tri-banders on them, multi-band antennas. It all gets down to what your goals are and how deep your pockets are. If you really want to be a serious contester, serious DXer, then yeah, you'll do better with that type of setup. But if you're a casual operator like me, I've worked the world on a dipole, 100 watts in the dipole. Can I bust pileups with that? No, I have to use some of my other skills on it that I've talked about in previous videos on how to break pileups. But when you put up a rotor, a tower, everything in it's going to be more expensive. More than likely, you're going to want to use a bigger rotor, and the bigger rotors looking at $700 up, depending on what you get. Now, tell you a little cheap ham story. I've said this before. My buddy Jeff and me, back in the 90s, both had small kids, both had the same job, wires wasn't working. Everything we did on a budget. He put up a RON tower. He had a full-size Mosley T33 tri-bander that had been modified. The boom had been replaced with a 4-inch piece of aircraft-grade aluminum and lengthened, and another full-size director added to it. So he had a 4-element full-size T33 tri-bander, Mosley tri-bander, on top of a RON 25 tower. and he turned it with an RCA typical Channel Master TV rotor. He put all thread in it instead of where the bolts goes, where you can stretch it out right under where it goes, where it comes, the mass comes through. Tightened it down, hooked it up. Now it screamed like a banshee, but it worked the whole time it was up there until a tornado took it away. Don't recommend that, but it does work. But the whole thing about the tower is this: it gets into how much money you want to put into this hobby. There's nothing wrong with a tower. In fact, I had a tower offered to me a while back, and I turned them down because I can't climb them anymore, and I'm just gonna keep rolling with what I'm rolling. So think about what you're doing. Think about the money you want to spend on the hobby, and go from there. You can make some really good contacts with ground-mounted antennas and working DX. Well, the tower helps is if you're going to work line of sight versus DX. But again, it all boils down to whatever amount of money you want to sink into this hobby. If you decide to go with tower, be safe, study safe tower installation, grounding, and all along it goes with it. It's just my thoughts on the subject. Y'all remember Main Trading Company in Paris, Texas? Richard's got a big end of the year sale right now. I think they had a Boss was out of town sale today or something, but sign up for their email listing. Get on their email chain and you'll know about these sales when they happen. And if you call the store and you heard about it here, tell them you heard about it on Big Boy's YouTube channel. Yes, thanks again for everybody subscribed to the channel. It's KB5 MIQ Big Boy 73.